good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you may be calling in from. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar that we're calling What Should We Know About the Biodiversity COP in Montreal and the Cities with Nature Platform? My name is Meaney. I'm the Executive Director of the Canada Office for ICLEI, Local Governments for Sustainability. So many of you are ICLEI friends. You'll know us as a global network of more than 2,000 local and regional governments that are committed to sustainability. We're active in over 100 countries where we work to influence sustainability policy and drive local action for low emission, nature-based, equitable, resilient, and circular development. One of the many hats we wear as an organization is to organize local government inputs into global COP processes. And two of those processes nearly collided this year, with the climate COP in Egypt just having completed, and now we're gearing up for the Biodiversity COP in Montreal. As I said, I'm the ED of our Canada office, where we work coast to coast with over 500 local governments from our offices in Montreal, in Toronto, and in Victoria. And I'm probably biased here, but I think Canada really punches above its weight when it comes to hosting or engaging in these global processes. So we're really thrilled to be welcoming the world back to Canada, to Montreal next week, as the city is the venue for the Biodiversity COP. We really wanted to host this webinar with you here today so that we could better understand just the importance of this COP and what it really means for Canadian local governments. If you pay attention to any of the media around this, they're saying it's the Biodiversity COP's Paris moment. And this means they expect the event to have as big an influence on the biodiversity negotiations as the Paris COP did on the climate negotiations. So I think that's pretty significant. But of course, like all of us here today, we can't all be physically present in Montreal for a whole 2-week event. So we wanted to take this opportunity to also showcase the Cities with Nature platform to demonstrate how any city, anywhere around the world, can be part of this global biodiversity effort. So to do all this, we're joined by a lot of different partners here today in preparing for the COP and preparing for this webinar. We're joined by Anne-Sophie Lapointe from the Government of Quebec, who's been heavily involved in all the COP preparations. We have Michèle Picard from the City of Montreal. She's in international relations. She's been really instrumental in designing the agenda for both the summit and the whole pavilion. We have my longtime colleague, Ingrid Coetzee from ICLEI's Global Cities Biodiversity Center in Africa.
Put me on your next CAC meeting to talk about communication.
Emery, try to mute that. And she's been involved in, I think, dozens of COP meetings and helping to organize the local government input into these things. We have Wilhelmine Kalitz and Stefania Romano, also from our ICLEI Africa office, who are going to introduce the Cities with Nature platform. And then we have Joëlle LeFrançois, Michèle's colleague, from the City of Montreal, who's going to share how the City of Montreal has engaged with that platform. So I think we're really in for an interesting and informative meeting here today. I invite you to get comfortable. You might be in front of your screens for the next 60 to 90 minutes, depending on how long the Q&A goes. Don't be shy. We're a really friendly crowd. You can use the chat box to ask any questions throughout. And we'll open the floor to verbal questions on camera if you like at the end of the session, where you can ask all sorts of questions if you like. So with that, I'm going to pass the floor over to our first speaker, Ingrid, to share her thoughts on the importance and relevance of local and subnational involvement in the process itself. Ingrid?
Thank you very much. And it's really very special for me to be here today because I don't know how many people know, but in 2018, at the ICLEI World Congress, also in Montreal, we actually launched Cities with Nature. Sorry, can everybody hear me? Okay, so we launched Cities with Nature in your beautiful city, and we're coming back to your beautiful city now for the COP, but also for some really exciting, interesting things around Cities with Nature. What I wanted to do tonight was really just, and I hope everybody can see that my slides have moved on.
Yep, you're good, Ingrid.
Great. So what I want to do tonight is just sketch a bit of a context and just talk a little bit about biodiversity advocacy and then the Convention on Biological Diversity. So the local government major group and specifically ICLEI have been involved in this process for just over a decade. This is the 7th COP where we are hosting an official parallel event to the COP, which is known as the Summit of Subnational Governments and Cities. And at the last COP, which was held 4 years ago, thanks to COVID, one of the commitments that we made at our 6th summit was that together with our partners, Regions 4 and some others, we would mobilize cities and subnational governments to the new COP, towards the new COP, which is going to be, as Megan said, the Paris moment. And as part of this, we worked very closely with the Scottish government from about, it was early 2019, in designing the Edinburgh process. And the Edinburgh process was specifically something that the SCBD, the Secretariat, asked the Scottish government to lead to ensure that there could be a consultative process for local and subnational governments. And ICLEI played a very strong role in that whole process. I'm not going to go into the detail of that, but I think the important thing that came out of that Edinburgh process, and it was quite an extended process, and we managed to reach more than almost 500 local and subnational governments globally, was what we call the Edinburgh Declaration. Now, this is a very high-level political declaration that represents the ambitions of our constituency towards the new framework that's going to be adopted at our COP in less than 2 weeks' time. And essentially what it does was to say that from a local government perspective, these are our ambitions. We want to reduce threats to biodiversity. We want to have certain tools and solutions in place. We as a community of local and subnational governments already do a lot, and we want to contribute to the achievement of national goals and reporting. And in effect, it really gives if I can say, a sort of a mandate for local and subnational governments in terms of what we're expecting out of the COP. I just want to encourage those cities at this workshop or this webinar that have not yet signed this declaration. Please, there is a web link on my slide. Please go and do yourselves and your cities the favor. Sign. I think we've got over 300 signatures at the moment of that declaration, and add your voices to this global movement. And it will remain open for about another week or so. Yeah, it's really, as I said, to sort of add to the voice. And it's important that the parties to the convention understand that there's a real momentum here, and it's a very well represented momentum. So yes, this year is the super year. We've had a number of major meetings already. For the first time in March this year, the parties and the observers got together in Geneva, and we had the first since early 2019, the first opportunity to get together and in person and start reopen the negotiation process. And at that meeting, very importantly, coming out of the Edinburgh Declaration was the need to have a renewed decision. There was a decision on engaging local and subnational governments already adopted in 2010, but we needed a new decision for the new decade, and it has a plan of action that was discussed and negotiated in March, and we've come out with a much stronger text. And we're really looking forward to the 8th of December when that recommended decision will come up before the parties. And we are hoping that they will say, yes, let's adopt this. Then in June, there was a follow-up meeting where we again were represented. And at that stage, we were making sure that the voice and the ambitions of cities and subnational governments is represented in the global framework and in the targets. And of course, now the moment that we've been waiting for is December. So just very quickly, the updated plan of action. I think the important thing there is there's 7 action areas. The one, as I said just now, is involvement and contributions to the implementation of the biodiversity strategies and action plans, the whole point of harmonization between levels of government and mainstreaming, resource mobilization. Those of you that are in government, you know how important this is. This is also something that we are pushing for, as is capacity development, etc. But the important one is monitoring and reporting, and that links to Cities with Nature and Regions with Nature. And the proposed plan of action actually references and recognizes Cities with Nature as the place for cities to make their contributions and to report on them. So this plan of action is really very significant. I think the one thing that I want to highlight there is that it's the only of the Rio Conventions, the CBD, that has a systematic mechanism for multi-level government, so governance, whole of government, and that is through this plan of action. And I think the other thing is that there's been very strong recognition throughout the CBD process by parties, but also by the co-chairs, that although policy and targets are set at the global and national level, it all stands and falls by the implementation by cities on the ground. So they recognize how important your contributions are. The Cities with Nature Action Platform, as I said, speaks directly to the recommendation that we're hoping will be adopted, and specifically on the plan of action. It's about mobilizing local actions to contribute towards meeting global biodiversity targets. And I'm not going to talk more about this. I just want to point out that it's an opportunity for cities to become global players and for the global world to see amazing work that's happening at cities that you're planning, and it really is a very important tool to use, and it's your space to make your commitments known and to report on these. So what can you do? Just to sum up, please sign the Edinburgh Declaration, make your commitments on the Cities with Nature Action Platform. We're going to hear from Joëlle what's happened in your beautiful city, and for those of you that have already registered, we hope to welcome you at our summit in not so many days. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ingrid. And you did a really good job of taking a really complex global process and bringing it down to something that's a bit more kind of manageable and understandable. Safe travels. I know you must be leaving soon. We're going to move on to Anne-Sophie Lapointe, who's from the Province of Quebec. And as I said, has been very busily involved in making these plans to host. So Anne-Sophie, you're welcome to take the floor.
Yes, thank you. Do you see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, hi everyone. I'm Anne-Sophie Lapointe. I'm working for the Ministry of Environment of the Quebec government, and I'm in charge of coordinating the international relations and biodiversity within the ministry, and many other things. But the past few months, I've been mainly focused on the COP15. Okay. So Quebec government is heavily involved in the coordination and organization of COP15 since we learned in the last June that the COP has been moved to our beautiful province. So it changed everything. It means that Quebec government will be involved in many aspects of the COP. So we collaborate heavily with the CBD Secretariat, the federal government, and the City of Montréal through various committees every week. We also collaborate with the City of Montreal as well, ICLEI, Regions 4, and the SCBD for their organization of the 7th Subnational Governments and Cities Summit and its associated pavilion. And we are very happy to have a Quebec Day that is planned on for December 9, during which Quebec's initiatives in nature conservation and biodiversity will be highlighted. So there will be many presentations from different ministries of Quebec in biodiversity, and it's going to be in French. And Quebec civil society is strongly mobilized as well. There are many organizations. For example, there is the collective of civil society that with members from close to 100 organizations that have been mobilized and that have planned a big programmation with different events in the green zone. And there is also a public action zone with another programmation. So many events are happening parallel to COP15. Yes, so Quebec has declared itself bound to the CBD since 1992. After the Rio Summit, and we are hosting its Secretariat in Montreal since 1996, so it's been almost more than 25 years. And that's why the COP15 has been moved to Montreal, because that's where sits its Secretariat. And also Quebec follows actively the negotiation of the next post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework. And there is a joint coordination of the Advisory Committee on Subnational Governments and Biodiversity with Regions 4. So we've been the co-coordinator of this committee since 2018. Quebec's envoy for climate change and Northern and Arctic affairs, Mr. Jean Lemire, is the ambassador of this group to the CBD. And we are also an active member of several international biodiversity networks like Regions 4, Regions with Nature, that I will talk to you about later, and the group of leading subnational governments towards Aichi biodiversity target goals. And as Ingrid mentioned earlier, we are also an important partner for the implementation of the Edinburgh process and its declaration. And we strongly encourage you to sign it if it has not been done, whether you are a subnational government or a city. Our Minister of Environment also sent a letter to his province ministers of environment to ask them to sign the declaration. Quebec government, one of its main objectives within COP15 is to recognize the role and contribution of subnational and local governments to the global biodiversity framework. Like Ingrid said, we would like to ensure that the action plan for subnational and local governments 2022-2030 is adopted at COP15. And also, we are regularly solicited by the Canadian delegation. They allow us to give our opinion on their position papers and comments, and the majority of time they take it into consideration. And we also collaborate with other subnational governments to develop a common position in the negotiations. So Regions with Nature, it's a sister initiative of Cities with Nature, but for subnational governments and regional government. It's a free collaborative initiative that enables subnational governments to demonstrate their commitment to biodiversity and nature conservation. It has been developed in collaboration with ICLEI, Regions 4, and several other international partners. And Quebec is a founding member of Regions with Nature and joined the platform in 2021. So we participated to the different workshops in order to prepare this platform. And the initiative will be launched at COP COP15. And also there will be some side events related to regions with nature at COP15. There will be a side event on December 7th, and also there will be a session in the pavilion on the 10th. And there will also be a signing ceremony at the summit for national governments and cities. So it's going to be highlighted during the COP. And its main objectives are connecting regional leaders and their partners around the world, and provide access to tools and resources on nature-based solution, ecosystem-based adaptation, biodiversity conservation, and many other themes. And it gives you the opportunity to share the commitments of subnational and regional governments to achieve global nature conservation goals. And there is also an important part, which is the case study database that we've been developing in the past year. So it's really, it's an open source of technical support, expertise, and on-the-ground knowledge for subnational governments and regional governments. And it's free, so it's a really interesting database for everyone. And regions with nature members can work and exchange collectively to address different obstacles or challenges they may have, and to find solutions to implement the CBD, its goals and targets. So the website has already been launched. So I encourage you to go have a look and to join the platform as soon as possible if you're a subnational government or a regional government. So thank you.
Thanks, Anne-Sophie. It's amazing to me that this much, like organizing for 15,000 people descending into your province, can be done in such a quick amount of time. So kudos. So now we're going to hear from Michèle Picard, who's with the City of Montreal, on all the ways the City of Montreal is involved in the preparations. The floor is yours, Michèle.
Thank you, Megan. I will share my screen, and you will see that I will try not to duplicate what my colleague already said. So I will concentrate into what Montreal is doing differently, because we're collaborating with ICLEI and also with. Do you see my screen? Yeah, okay. And we're collaborating with the Government of Quebec and also with ICLEI, of course. So let me just start by saying that because of the venue of this conference, we reorganize a lot of things into the organization of the COP. So there are three major ways for us to be part of the COP. First, there's a past action that you can see, Montreal and Biodiversity Action, that we already do, and I will come back to that a little bit later. And then Montreal and the COP, we're co-host and co-organizer for the summit and the pavilion. And we also participate in a lot of parallel events. Some of our employees and scientists, specialists are into the blue zone in some of the events, the parallel events, but also in the action zone at Grand Quai. I think it's from the 7 to the 12 or something like that. I don't remember the dates, if someone can correct me on that. And the big part that is taking a lot of time is the logistic of the COP site. So there's a lot of things to do about transportation, circulation, as you must think, and also security that you've probably heard about on the news. There are several journalists that are really interested into our what is going on in Montreal with the security perimeter. We're working with communication and of course international relation and protocol, because there's a lot of mayors that are coming to Montreal and they want to have meetings with our mayor and with of course elected ones. So there's a lot of issues and a lot of people that are involved. So you will see all the central services that are implicated. So it's, of course, the Relations Internationales, the government and relation, the urban security protocol, and all the big parks, Mont-Royal, Espace pour la Vie, and other people like le service de l'eau, the water management system, environmental issues as well. So they're all part of the content of what the city has to present, but also to make sure that everything is all right with the venue of the 10 to 15,000 people that are going to come in a week. It's not far. In action for biodiversity, we already do planning, conservation, regulation, restoration, plantation, eradication, accessibility, and so on that you will hear at the summit. And there are several services that are implicated, and also boroughs at the very local level that are, they have planning abilities, and so they can have some strategies. One of our borough, Rosemont, has a biodiversity strategy. It's the first one that we have in Montreal. It will be presented on the 8th, which is the Montreal Day. And to give you some example of what we, the collaboration that we have, there's a welcome kiosk by Tourisme Montréal, transportation from the airport into the city for the delegates with the Transport Society of Montreal. There's in the venue in the Blue Zone, there is a kiosk, and there are guided tours for the delegation. What we can underline is that Montreal presides the advisory committee of ICLEI CBD on biodiversity, and you can see some of the members, and some of them are cities that were past COP cities. So, for example, Nagoya in Germany, Nagoya and Bonn, sorry. And other and Curitiba, of course, and some of them are cities that have very interesting initiative that can be shared, so that they meet once a year normally and exchange about initiatives. So it's an ongoing process that we do with ICLEI. Just to get a glimpse at the past, we were part of the first meetings in Curitiba, Bonn, and Nagoya, and Montreal played a key role into the recognition in Nagoya for the recognition of cities and some national government. And the mayor of Montreal was part of that at that time. And because we are the host of the Secretariat, we do a lot of activities, like what I put into example, the lancement canadien of the celebration of International Year of Biodiversity in 2010, that was done in City Hall with the mayor and the Secretariat Général. So it's very usual for us to work very closely with the Secretariat. So it's important that the link between ICLEI Secretariat and Montreal is very tight and very close. And for example, our mayor is the ICLEI's Global Ambassador for Local Biodiversity. Of course, as Anne-Sophie said, we are the host of the Secretariat since 1996, and we're very proud of it. Montreal is a member of ICLEI's initiative Cities with Nature, and Joëlle was going to talk about it a little bit later. And we're also part of the C40 initiative, Urban Nature Accelerator, and Mayor Plante is also vice chair to that Urban Nature Accelerator. And of course, we are a signatory city of the Edinburgh Declaration, as Ingrid explained a bit earlier. Just to situate our event, of course, there are official meetings and parallel forum and side events, but we are part of the parallel forum. The City Summit is part of these summits that are recognized by UN. And our involvement into the summit and the pavilion, we're involved into the programming of cities. And we work closely with the ICLEI and the Quebec government to propose sessions and speakers that will come to Montreal to talk about their initiative and their action. Because if you remember correctly, taking action for biodiversity is a sub-theme of the summit. Two outcomes of the summit. One is very important and is the coming Montreal Declaration. So it's the principal way of cities that are that will be negotiated and put into the. Sorry, I have a phone call. I'm very sorry. The coming Montreal Declaration will be hopefully deposited into the high-level segment as the cities and subnational government declaration and proposition to the global biodiversity framework and the post-2020. Which is really important to us, as Anne-Sophie underlined, and as well Ingrid. And I don't want to go back on that, but added to that, the Mayor of Montreal sent what we call the Montreal Pledge. It's 15 actions for COP15, and it was sent for to cities across the globe. And it's a link, of course, with the GBF. And the action that the cities are already doing and propose and engage to accomplish in the next few years. So it's important for us to have some sort of an outcoming that is different and complementary of the Montreal Declaration. Already we have the city of Paris, Milan, Los Angeles, London, Freetown, and others. I don't remember, Bogota. We have a lot of cities, and they're coming every day, and we're going to present that at the summit. The Mayor of Montreal, of course, is going to present that. So I think it's what I had to tell you about our implication. If we meet at the COP, I will be available if you and after this presentation, I will be available to answer your question. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Michèle. We'll let you take that call and then bring you back in for the Q&A. Great. All right, so now we're going to move on to my colleague Wilhelmine Kalitz. She's going to give us a sampling of the Cities with Nature platform, along with her colleague Stefania, Romano.
Thank you so much, Megan. I appreciate that.
Great.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen, and in that way I can actually just show everybody straight up how the Action Platform works by being on the Action Platform. So first, I just want to let you know that I won't be able to see if anybody raises a hand. So if you do, please just interrupt me. And the second thing that I want to ask is, can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, we see that you're on the platform now.
Okay, perfect. So once you've joined Cities with Nature, and by the way, joining Cities with Nature is free and it's very, very easy. You register, you just click on Join Cities with Nature, and then you fill in the details of who will be your city representative for that. And then you will receive an email giving you all the details that you need. So firstly, it will give you a password and a username so you can log in for your city. And second, one of the things that we've been working on is to improve the user friendliness. So we're sending out some documents in that first email that helps you collect all the data that you would need to fill in. So one of the documents, for example, is a list of things that it would be helpful. For example, we're going to need some information on your head of government and things like that. So it just gives you a little bit of a checklist so that you can already gather that information before you even start. And I think another important part of that is also, we also recommend a couple of, sorry, I see that you've asked to start my video.
Oh, your
No,
video
sorry,
is
it's just
not
that
on.
we can't see you. We can't see William.
Oh, no problem. Can you see me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
perfect. Apologies. Okay, great. So another thing that's quite helpful in that regard is that we also recommend what kind of policies for your cities you can already gather, so that it will make it easier for you to complete the different commitments and actions. So, for example, if you have an LBSAP, or if you have a catchment management policy or something, we recommend that you already gather that information beforehand, and then it's much easier to complete all the information. So, right, I'm going to take you through two different things. Firstly, I'm going to take you through the actual action platform dashboard, and then I'll jump back onto the city profile. So when you click on the action platform dashboard, you will go to this page that gives you an option, and that, by the way, has also recently been revamped a little bit just to improve the user friendliness. And in that regard, I just want to mention that we do continually strive to make the action platform more scientifically robust and more user friendly. So if you do have feedback, please always get in touch with us. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to help you through this process. So if you come to this page, you can already go to your commitments. So you just click on view my commitments, and here it already shows you how many actions you've taken. So the way that I view it is, you basically have your action areas, and then from there your action areas goes into your commitments, and from your commitments you make specific actions, and then from your actions you can decide to either make you can decide to break it down into a SMART indicator, or just a baseline indicator. So I'll show you that in a second. So here you can see already the level of actions that you've taken, and it also gives you more information that's helpful. So for example, here you can set a reminder for yourself to put your reports here, say every 6 months or every annually or whatever, and then you'll receive a notification that say your report is due. And the reason why I'm highlighting the report is because of what Ingrid mentioned earlier about monitoring and reporting. So the Cities with Nature Action Platform is the CVD recognized platform for monitoring and reporting at this stage for cities. So it is very important to over time start collecting your reports here. And then, of course, one of the most important things about the Cities with Nature Action Platform is that all our targets, our indicators, and commitments are all linked with the GBF targets. And those are also very much linked with the SDGs. So we've created a directory. You can click here and go to directory. That breaks it all down for you. You can literally see which targets, which action areas are linked with the GBF targets, and which are linked with the SDGs in what way. And this is to ensure that cities are able to report on their biodiversity actions in a way that also is streamlined with their national priorities for SDGs and GBF targets. So yeah, the important thing about the local government approach is to make sure that you do feed into that national goals. So we're trying to make it really relevant in that way. So you can see here exactly which targets are linked to the SDGs. So in terms of commitments, I'm just going to show you here. So we've changed everything up. It might look a bit different for those of you who have been on here, but you basically can now visit your commitments on the left side and the top. And here you'll see our action areas that I mentioned earlier. So we have 3 action areas, which is protect and restore nature, use nature sustainably, and develop tools and solutions. So I'm just going to show you quickly in the first one, because I'm not going to have time to go through each of them, of course, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like when you open up an action area. Here you will find your commitments, which is protect, connect, and connect resource, protect, connect. I just want to say it's almost 9 p.m. in South Africa. So if I'm struggling with my words, it is a bit late. Protect, connect, and restore ecosystems. And then, so this is one commitment. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commitments on this page. And then under this one action area, and then you can click on each of your actions. These are the actions. And here we've made it possible for you to edit your actions. So if you put in an action and then you want to update it after a year or a couple of months, or you made a mistake, whatever, we've now made it possible for you to edit that action, which is very helpful. And this is what I was talking about earlier. You can now also set your baseline and your SMART targets here. So this is where you want to complete your SMART targets, which are the measurable targets I'm sure most of you have heard about. And then it's important for us to think back to the reporting that I just showed now. So this is where you would set that, you would add the new report and you would set your reminders under the details. And this is also where you can take notes for yourself. So you can take note for your city and say, hey, please remember in 6 months' time to add this type of data or whatever. And then whoever has your login will receive those notes. So here's your reminder where you set your report reminder. And then finally, one of the most important things is to upload proof documents. So I think it's really important that we keep the platform as robust as possible. So any policies, any valuable documentation that will really, help sort of verify your information that you're putting in, you can add here. And then the nice thing that we've also done with this is that if you upload one document, you can now link it to several targets or actions or commitments. So you don't have to upload one document for each. Hope that makes sense. And then I would like to also show you the leaderboard, which is something that's very exciting for those cities that are doing a lot for nature and biodiversity and would like to really, show what they're doing. So here we can see the participating cities. You can see the total actions taken and the active commitments. And then you can also see, which action areas are doing better in terms of people making commitments. And you can also see on the map, like which countries which cities are doing what, and here's our city leaderboard. So you can see who's doing very well in that regard. So I'm just going to show you very quickly this links with the profile that I mentioned earlier. So if you actually click on any of these profiles, you can see what I said we would need some information. So if you click on about, we want a little bit of a blurb about your city. We want your head of government details. And then we want you to show, really showcase your city. What is the nice urban nature stuff that you have that you can show us and that you can show other cities that they can learn from. You can also show your actions here. And then the great part about the actions being showcased here is that you can actually download it as a PDF. So if you want to send this to your city, to your governments and say, listen, this is what we've done for biodiversity as a city, you can literally send them the PDF for that. So that's basically all that I can show now in this regard. But in the future, as you can see here, as cities are making more commitments, there's little badges and things that you can also get. And that's all great stuff that you can show to your government leaders. I think that's going to be it for now, Megan, because I don't want to go over time, but I can maybe already take if anybody has one.
Yeah, we'll do the questions at the end. We just wanted to get through all the speakers first. Now, I understand there's some Cities with Nature events at the COP. Stefania, were you going to share those?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can show you my screen as well. I think that Ingrid and Bill said it all, and in fact, I took so much space yesterday in the French version of the Canadian Action Platform webinar. Now, what I want to be highlighting to you is just a question. In fact, it's just why we're having webinars on the Action Platform, why the Action Platform is so important, and in order to be answering this question, I will be also showing you, we have been that's the overall presentation, but I'm going through that's what my colleagues have already explained. But I want to be showing you that we have regional offices, ICLEI has regional offices throughout the world, in fact, and we have been organizing specific webinars in each of the regional offices. So we had one in Portuguese for the Brazilian constituencies, and Campinas was really conveying very strongly how the Action Platform is useful for the biodiversity plans. We had the webinar for the European municipalities, and there Glasgow was also featuring the importance of the Action Platform. We had one for the Oceanian municipalities, and for the first time we also got New Zealand municipalities in were really very much eager to be understanding and learning more about the Action Platform. One on involving the South and Eastern Asia municipalities. One the Central American ones, and that was specifically in Spanish. One for the American municipalities, and I can't even tell you how much the discussion was really intriguing and was really enthusiastic from the audience itself. And one for the African municipalities as well. Yesterday, the one for Canada, and today is the last one. So we really closed the beauty of this overall sessions. And why the Action Platform? Because you have seen, Wilhelmine explained it very well. It's time, it's the momentum, it's the Paris moment for biodiversity. It's the time for cities and local governments to be part of an international process, to be enabling finally biodiversity action. It's the plan of action, the new one, which is going to be adopted. And that's really the time for cities finally to have their voice heard and to have their commitments done. And at the end of the day, it's about not only people living better in harmony with nature, but in fact, it affects directly people, the communities, and their health and their well-being. We are going to be having specific, as Megan was just hinting before, specific side events on focusing on Biodiversity and CitiesWithNature at the pavilion. Not only at the pavilion, in fact. So the first one is the CBD side event. It's one of the fewest events that the CBD has granted, has approved, and that's going to it's going to be a very high-level political one, pulling together both cities with nature and regions with nature, with the relevant major partners like the UNWCMC, like UNEP, like IUCN, and Region 4. And then I think that it's very important for the audience here to be knowing that on the 12th of December at the summit, specifically in the section Act, there will be an award ceremony, a sign-up ceremony. That's really the time, the moment, the space for the cities to be coming on the stage, to be awarded, to be recognized for their efforts for nature. So all these cities that over this period, and in Montreal as well, are going to be signing up to Cities with Nature. They have their momentum on the stage. So it's your time. We are also going to be having at the pavilion specifically one session on health and well-being in cities, which will be moderated by Megan, in fact, also pulling together some of the Cities with Nature partners like 80 Cities, Parks Canada, London National Park. Another session on regions with nature, on how to mobilize resources, not only financial, but also technical ones for biodiversity actions. Last but not least, one specific event for Cities with Nature, which is like featuring Cities with Nature partners, but also the cities which are part of it. So here we will also have not only the Secretariat of the Biodiversity, but also the Foundation of Environmental Education, UNICE, which is the newest partner to Cities with Nature. And just for you to know, and maybe Ingrid doesn't know it either, but we will be receiving the collaboration letter tomorrow. So you see, a lot of things are just coming on. Cities with Nature is growing in numbers as much as cities are concerned. It's growing in terms of partners, and so it's really the time for all of us to be finally celebrating it at COP. I think it's all from my side. Overall, we have been covering all the different aspects, and thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stefania. I'm sure you're going to see a big rise in subscriptions, or however you word it, into the platform. This will be the moment, as you say. All right, last but certainly not least, we have Joëlle LeFrançois, and she is sort of like a case study from the City of Montreal on how they have used the Cities with Nature platform. So the floor is finally yours, Joëlle.
Thank you. I'll try to share my screen. Everything working? Megan?
Indeed.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Joëlle LeFrançois. I'm a planning advisor with the Large Parks, Mont-Royal and Sports Department at the City of Montreal. It's a pleasure to be here and to be speaking on Montreal's experience with the Cities with Nature's Action Platform and sharing a few perspectives on that. So the City of Montreal joined Cities with Nature in 2019 following a resolution by the Executive Committee. And we were, of course, very happy to join this international network and to share our actions aiming to protect and increase nature in the city, protect biodiversity, and to be inspired as well by best practices being implemented by other cities throughout the world. And with COP15 taking place in Montreal this year, we wanted to boost our efforts regarding Cities with Nature to identify and share our most recent, our most relevant green initiatives on the platform. So we undertook a concerted exercise involving 6 central services, the ones that are the most concerned with greening and biodiversity protection, to try and identify all these strategies, the plans, the policies, the projects, or any initiatives that was aiming to protect and enhance nature in the city. So we consulted with, of course, the Large Parks Greening and Mont-Royal Department, which is a service that I work for, the Bureau on Ecological Transition and Resilience, the Water Service, Environment Service, Space for Life, and Urbanism and Mobility Service. So that exercise allowed us to list a great number of initiatives of interest that addressed a wide variety of topics. You have just a few examples here. So first to the left, you have the Nature and Sports Plan that was launched in 2021, which aims to enhance nature and parks in the city to protect biodiversity and to promote a healthy and active lifestyle. Then the Climate Plan, which aims to make Montreal a resilient and carbon neutral city. The new Pollinator Protection Plan, which aims to protect pollinator habitats and improve the living conditions of the species. Urban agriculture strategy, it's a topic that really is very important to Montrealers. This strategy aims to support the development of the sustainable practice of urban agriculture with a focus on biodiversity. And last example is the assessment of the quality of Montreal's water bodies. This is a long-standing initiative that is done through samplings of the water bodies and analyses. So these are just a few examples of the initiatives that were identified through this concerted effort. And this exercise was made originally, as I said, to add documents on the Cities with Nature platform, to share them, to show the range of action that is undertaken by the city. But when ICLEI launched the Action Platform that aims more specifically to promote city commitments that contribute to the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, then we decided to seize the opportunity of the work that we were currently doing with colleagues from the 6th service to try and single out a few first commitments that are included in some of the plans that we had listed and that could also be relevant for the action platform. So we identified 5 first commitments. There are many others that we could add to the platform, but we decided to try the platform out and try to register a few first example and see how it went. So on the side, you can on the slide, excuse me, you can see 2 examples that are linked to the action area Protect and Restore Nature. So as William was saying, the platform is very user-friendly. It's simple to use. You only have to follow the steps that are presented as you go along. So first, we chose the action area Protect and Restore Nature. Then we chose the commitment Protect, Connect and Restore Ecosystem. And then we clicked on the specific action, Increase Protected Areas. And that allowed us to add our objective, which is to increase to 10% the area of protected terrestrial natural environments within the agglomeration of Montreal. So this is an objective that is included in our nature and sports plan and the climate plan. And second, we chose the action Restore and or Rehabilitate terrestrial, freshwater and coastal ecosystems. And we added our objective, which is to rehabilitate 10 kilometers of public shorelines in a large parks network. So again, this is an objective that comes from our nature and sports plan and climate plan. And for your information, the other 3 commitments that we added to the platform to date are linked to climate change adaptation through tree planting, pollution control, and increased access for citizens to green and blue spaces in the city, mainly through park creation. So, okay, I'll continue. So to conclude, I'd like to share a few perspectives. The initiatives that are undertaken by municipalities, current initiatives, they very likely are already contributing to global targets on biodiversity. One might think that making the link between the local and the global and trying to translate the global targets into local context is an additional and complicated task, but it is not that complicated really, because cities' existing objectives and the project that they are implementing are oftentimes already aligned with international targets. International goals will focus on such topics as protection of at-risk species, control of invasive species, conservation of biodiversity, protected areas, ecosystem restoration. I mentioned shoreline restoration earlier, increased access to green spaces for citizens, and many, many other topics that concern cities as well, that cities are already working on. So the action platform allows you to demonstrate this link, and it also allows you to make your initiatives known and to inspire other cities and amplify the global movement, that movement that we're all rooting for, to have healthy green cities, biodiversity-rich cities that are favorable to health and well-being all over the world. So I thank you for your attention. And with that, I give the floor back to ICLEI.
Thanks so much, Joëlle. It's one thing for ICLEI to talk about the platform, but it's, you know, it's so much more valuable to have the user experience articulate how, you know, they engaged with it and how they benefited from it. So we really appreciate that. So I feel like we've covered a lot here today. You know, we started at the very beginning with this, talking about these global COP processes, and so we ended with, you know, how that is being implemented sort of on the ground in one Canadian city and everything in between. So you've heard a lot from us, but we have an opportunity to open the floor now to any questions that you might have. Questions, you know, about Montreal's biodiversity work, about the event coming, anything and everything is open. So feel free, you can open your camera, open your microphone. I'll also watch the chat, but all kinds of ways of sending questions are welcome. Oh, and Michelle's giving us a wave. She's got another call that starts at 2, so she's already a minute late. All right, don't be shy, folks. I noticed that Wilhelmine had posted a link saying you can sign up for the mailer to receive daily updates on what is happening at COP. So if you want to really keep your finger on the pulse, you should do that. I'm sort of looking down through the comments, but I see people saying they have to run. So of course, that's fine. Lots of thank yous, lots of people signing up for the updates. That's great. I know it's always awkward to be the first question, so don't be shy. Maybe we have just covered it all. All right, I'll give an opportunity to any of our speakers. Did you realize you forgot anything you wanted to say while you were presenting? You could have one more moment here if you want to cover anything else. Not seeing anyone jump. What other Canadian cities are using Cities with Nature? Do you know offhand, Stefania? I think there was a recent sign up, wasn't there? Just like yesterday.
A recent one, Ville, je crois. I think it's a small one, but it's still consistent. Of course, Montreal. Not very many. I will. Let me check, because Canadians, in fact, but we are confident that now they're just signing up during COP15, in fact. So it's let me check for you, because of course we have 260 more cities, so I cannot recall all of them by heart. But so it's Edmonton, City of Leduc, Montreal, Stefania, Coetzee, and Lincoln, and Saint-Anne-de-Belleville.
Any sense of the time commitment needed to sort of engage with the platform?
Well, to tell you the truth, is quite, I would say, personal. Some of the cities were kind of reluctant or concerned that it would take too long, but then once they jumped in, because as Wilhelmine was saying before, it's really a facilitated path now. It's really user-friendly. So in a way, when you do register and you just click on it, you go through it in such a simple way that it really helps you out throughout, you know, the nature commitments over the various cities. So I wouldn't say that there is a recipe. It's very personal. And something else that also Wilhelmine, she might have said, but maybe not necessarily highlighted, is that the action platform is for all cities, any size, and Cities with Nature in general is for any size, any scope, so it very much depends on the priorities, on the capacity. There's not one size fits all. You know, it's there for all the different needs, the different capacities, different priorities. So it's really molded, shaped in a way that it meets all cities' different necessities. And if anything, I should show you the intervention of Cape Town during the African municipalities webinar. They were saying, I mean, the team is always there for us whenever there would be technical issues or some queries, or they were there for us. And I was, you know, we were like, don't say it too loud, otherwise it will be every day just one trigger request. But that's the story. It's not, Cities with Nature is not a platform, you know, something like a whole distant thing which is there and disconnected from the people. We are with the cities, we are with the people, and that's the beauty of this platform. And that's why, as Wilhelmine was saying, in South Africa it's 9 p.m. in Rome it's 8. So Ingrid and Wilhelmine are staying until very late, myself as well. But because we love what we do, and there is such a commitment that we just want to be sharing with you, which is not only a commitment, it's just passion. So come on board of Cities with Nature and share it with us.
Yeah, and I can imagine it'll be really inspirational to be able to kind of look across at what other cities are doing, right?
It's very inspirational. I have to say that going through all the different webinars and just looking at the perspective from the different cities, the different regions, I learned so much from them. Humanly, professionally, and technically. I think it's been one of the most beautiful parts of my job, I have to say.
Oh, that's nice. There was a question from Janet about will we notify them when the recording is available on the website? So it'll go up in the coming days. We have a newsletter going out in 2 weeks, I believe. So there'll be a notification in that newsletter about it. But you could also just check back in a couple days and you'll see it. And you want to share. That's great. Anne Marie's saying that we'll add it in our next. Yes. Montreal event, not a national event. Oh, okay. Georgina is saying she only found out about the COP15 event while visiting friends in Quebec. It's a Montreal event, not a national event. I find it's really interesting, like the media around COP events. I feel like it was focused on the climate one for a while, right? Because it was happening, and now I see it turning. Like I'm personally getting more general media around this COP event. And now that the climate COP is over, because too many COPs in the general media is just kind of confusing for all, isn't it? So I hope that sort of changes and we see it becoming more global and kind of
but
national
Megan,
effort.
if I can chip in, one of the major results which we have already seen last COP, climate COP 2016 in Glasgow, and it's been consolidating during this very COP in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh. It's been the interlinkage between biodiversity and climate. And that's exactly where we want to be fitting in, because if anything, there is not first climate and then biodiversity, they're interlinked. So this is really the space where we have to be picking up and rolling throughout. So promising, that's promising, that's promising.
I always find it even like refreshing to know, like, you know, if I'm just out at the dog park talking to random strangers, they know what a COP is. For a long time, you know, no one knew what that world was. And now it's quite mainstream to even understand that these international negotiations are happening. So we're getting there. All right, last opportunity. Any questions before we wrap up? I'm not seeing any.
I've been told
like we've covered it all. We've covered it all. Well, I'll just take a moment to thank our presenters then. We did the English one today, the French one yesterday. We asked them not only once, but twice to, you know, and to do multiple languages. So thank you all for your contributions. And I look forward to seeing you in Montreal, staying up to date with you as the daily briefings go out. And we will leave it at that. Thank you, everyone.
And Megan, let me thank you, because you really worked wonderfully, yourself and Anne-Marie. You did. I was just a little small support, and thanks for all the speakers that were yesterday and today as well. That's great commitment. Michèle, Picard, Joëlle, Anne-Sophie. So there we are. We are really a partnership. CitiesWithNature is a partnership initiative, and we show that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Stefania. Okay, have a good afternoon, evening, morning to all of you.
Bye.